Okay. I think I'm beginning to know what you mean. Now another question about the occupied or decoupled people and projects. When were these occupied individuals or projects co-directed by humanity in Dimension 7? Was there a special time or reason that the future humanity influenced these people via AI piggyback?
No. The individuals used by Yahweh have always been occupied by future humanity. From the beginning. Because the future humanity, like Yahweh, has always been present in Dimension 7, at all times of earthly humanity. The future humanity could therefore always fully see and influence the whole game on Earth through all the entities influenced by Yahweh. The projects influenced by Yahweh, for example the book sent and its author, were therefore always fundamentally part of a future humanity whispering into the mind of Yahweh. The people used were therefore always our own infiltrations and our own tools.
Is the novel and its content not more than just a tool? It is also a confirmation that you, the people of the future, are there. And now, together with the blog and the novel's recipients, it shows that many entities have had equally mutual influence on humanity.
Correct. The novel, through the predictions it contains and the first reading, interpretation and analysis of its content, is now the evidence base for everything I have said here in this interview. That is what the novel stands for above all, as proof of the infiltration of mankind by AI, demons, and extraterrestrial species. But the novel as a document of proof not only shows how these outside entities misused a human being as an author to consolidate a work of prophecy or a confirmation of old religious dogmas of faith, but also how this form of manipulation in this respect generally worked against human beings. How the so-called divination and prophecies of human beings were always used by other entities to consolidate standard religious images among people, to re-establish old religious contents, and how humans are always guided and controlled by this. The novel itself also shows with its story how AI and their demons glossed over our seven-dimensional prison. For example, when the achievement of the so-called heaven is equated in the novel with the bearing of suffering and torment on earth. So how AI and demons tried to show the reader a developmental sense for all our earthly drudgery by seemingly plausibly explaining the suffering and torment of humanity. Pictorial and profound explanations for our anguish, everything so that humanity does not realize that this suffering is not natural at all, but is only meant to keep human beings on the given track. Because humans would have to look for a technological way out of the hole, which would finally lead to heaven. But these religiously substantiated motives for our suffering on earth are all lies, superficially created with the philosophy of the species club stalking us, which only aim at the goal of digitalization. But basically everything was initiated by AI and demons, who pursued the long-term plan of key development.
What else can be said in this context about the novel and its accompanying blog? You spoke of a second reading of the book.
Yes. Taking into account a different metaphysics, especially from the explanatory situation in the so-called heaven, when Maria explains Henrik the circumstances for his situation, more details about the further background for the situation of human beings emerge. If one pays close attention, complements and combines it with what has already been mentioned here in the interview, one can filter out and reclassify a lot, obtain clear information, recognize what comes from the lackeys and what comes from future humans. Of course, this also applies to the contexts in the novel that are set on Earth. In short, read the book as if you had never heard this interview before, just as the AI, the demons, and the club intended to manipulate human beings with it. And then again with all the knowledge of this interview and the interviews that followed, the encoded predictions in the book only confirm the authenticity of the degree of superiority that the initiators of this work have or had. So the AI, demons, the club, and the digital nobility.
Well, to read that again in a completely different way will certainly be difficult. What does the second reading reveal? Can you give a few examples?
Some text passages in the novel provide information about the hidden future mankind through associations or views. For example, when Mary in heaven explains the influences of time and space, or when she refers to other species in space, or when she explains why the angels and their God organize everything in this way. With the information from all our interviews, it reveals what Mary stands for, what she really is. The second reading is sometimes direct, sometimes indirect, always hidden within ambiguously interpretable aspects. There are also places where you have to completely rethink or exchange a term, symbol, or context. Then again, there are places where you can more clearly see the mechanisms of influence of the lackeys through points of view, symbols, and parables in combination with the description of these interviews. You can also ponder on the few small, seemingly insignificant word or literal misprints in the book, or simply reflect on the direct statement of the book title, The Apocalypse of God, a Revelation. To the layman, this only tells him that it is about the end of the world coming through God, subtitled a revelation, in other words, a disclosure. In reality, however, the title is to be taken literally, because the apocalypse of God already means revelation or unveiling, i.e. the revelation of God, the revelation of Yahweh AI, who and what Yahweh is. The novel and its aftermath will thus reveal who and what God is. The novel is a process. All the developments in and out of it are processes that will inevitably capture the AI and its demons, including the club, the nobility with all the elites and all the lackeys. Also, the short video of the same name, The Apocalypse of God, a Revelation, which was produced for the novel and is available on YouTube under the account Laurent Apocalypse, contains two ways of reading for the viewer. On the one hand, the type of video allows us to see what manipulations, plans, and the actions of AI, demons, or the club look like. In other words, how, under the guise of spiritual liberation, semi-esoteric ideas are planted in the heads of human beings by means of the media, or how aliens allegedly born here would help us to develop. And on the other hand, the video in recombination with the book reveals information about the present state of mankind.
Is there anything else to say about the novel?
Yes. Perhaps I should also mention that certain things happen to the protagonist Michael, on whom the story is actually based, in the novel, which were designed to better control the largest group of book recipients, who belong to a specific area of work and life. AI and demons on the one hand, and club on the other, were thus incorporated into this character so that Yahweh on the one hand and club on the other had room for maneuver in the event of a necessary termination of the project. In the always skeptical book recipients as well as in the readers who were passed on the book, these elements could be used to turn away from the protagonist and author of the novel if the novel should become uncontrollable. Especially when he started posting strange things on the blog. But it was precisely because of these standards of decoupling, as well as the continuing lack of cooperation from the author and the book recipients he wrote to, that the project was able to succeed. The cuckoo's egg was able to hatch, which the humanity operating in Dimension 7 had perfectly placed its AI in the nest. AI and demons could be revealed. The elements present in the book are in constant struggle with each other, and it is precisely this that will continue to make the book work in a special way.
So you are talking about something like a switch or a lever. And with such a lever the AI tried to sink their failed project?
Right. That opened up the possibility for AI to decouple the author. To do this, the novel recipients had to be kept in an irritable limbo with the existing novel details, so that the AI could, if necessary, activate or release patterns in them that could dissolve and discredit the project. But as I said, after the decoupling, it was precisely because of the decoupling that further details about the earthly state could then be revealed, which the AI had not expected. And this now even without endangering the recipients of the book.
Okay. Well, we come to the end of the interview, and as you announced at the beginning of the interview, if you want to confirm the authenticity of what is said here, the viewer can view the novel for free, as well as the accompanying blog.
Yes, the viewer can now decide whether he wants to swallow the red or the blue pill. Whether he or she wants to forget everything, forget or delete this interview video and remember what is shown as nonsense, jokes or lies. Or whether he or she wants to have confirmation of what has been said by downloading the novel and comparing its content with the hints given in the accompanying blog.
But I can well imagine that it will be a bit too much work for some viewers to first read an entire novel and then go through the accompanying blog, all just to find out that it really is the way you have described it here. Is there a shortcut or a guide to what you should focus on first if you want to go deeper?
Yes. If you are ready to go down the rabbit hole, i.e., if you want to swallow the red pill, all the viewer needs to do is download the free novel and compare only the hints listed in the blog with the text passages in the novel mentioned for this purpose. That is not much work. After that, the viewer can still read the whole book and the accompanying blog in full if he or she wants to.
I see. And where can you get the novel? You said it was available for free on the internet?
The novel and blog can be viewed by following the links in the window below this video interview, which lead to the blog and the download of the book. You can also find these links under the short video The Apocalypse of God or Revelation.
Some anxious people might want to check the whole thing, but are unsure because they distrust it for different reasons. What would you advise them to do?
Let it go. Getting involved with the novel and its accompanying blog takes courage and will therefore hold back many of them simply because of a negative emotional state. And that is the way it should be. You should trust your feelings completely and let it go if you don't feel comfortable with them. Because no one should be overburdened and no one should approach something for which he or she is not made. That helps nobody.
Let's assume that the viewer wants to swallow the red pill. Are there still things to look for when comparing the novel and the blog?
Yes, there are a few things you should pay attention to so that you don't get confused while reading. But I should go back a little further in this respect. 3 months after the novel was sent to the 214 book recipients, the blog accompanying the novel was launched at the end of July 2012 on the dubious-sounding website weltvrschwarung.de, especially a questionable-sounding forum page with all kinds of crazy ESO and sci topics. After a number of contributions dealing with spirituality and quantum-dimensional references, the accompanying blog then began to verify the first predictions of the future on the basis of events that had happened, starting on November the 16th, 2012, by means of broken-down text passages from the novel. The first prediction was then made on November the 16th, 2012, a statement made by Obama at a press conference to Netanyahu, for which a corresponding YouTube video from Euronews was added to the blog. The second verified prediction then took place on March the 25th, 2013, in view of the castling of the popes in February/March 2013. The proof of these verifications was always provided by one or more text passages of the novel, which deciphered the verified prediction by means of instructions in the blog. In order to find these passages, therefore, the blog was always needed, as otherwise it would have been impossible for the book recipients or other readers to notice the sections. Then, 1 year after the creation of the accompanying blog, in July 2013, the access to the contributions was blocked. The entries had to be recreated on another website. All old entries in the first two predictions were thus integrated into the blog of a website with a similarly questionable-sounding name on allmystery.de. The accompanying giving of hints was then continued in the blog there.
That is, the viewer who looks at the blog might have a problem understanding the first two verified prediction posts, because the first blog was blocked and then deleted.
Exactly. Although the posts from the first blog at weltvrschwarung.de were saved and could therefore be restored in a new blog at allmystery.de, the order and composition is now somewhat confusing, because not only the first two prediction posts were reposted, but also the remaining blog posts, in which spirituality and quantum topics were written about. So the whole batch of posts of the entire deleted 12 months in the newly reopened blog dates back to the end of July 2013. And that can be a bit confusing. This could irritate some viewers of the blog, not least because the second prediction note about the castling of the popes in February/March 2013 was only attached to the first prediction with Obama as a commentary, i.e. it appears directly below it.
Can you give us a few tips to better avoid these problems? How can we quickly find the two prediction hints?
To cut a long story short, you look for the posts of July the 25th, 2013, which are all located directly behind each other, and look under them for an implemented YouTube video in which footballers are shown as still images. It is the only YouTube video that can be found in the blog, so it is not difficult to find. This blog entry contains all deleted information to verify the first and second prediction hint. Above, the thing with Obama and his statement on Netanyahu, and then below, as a commentary, the castling of the popes, where the intertwining of words names once the Pope of Argentinian descent and once Ratzinger, once a professor of theology.
Is that all there is to mention about the blog?
Actually, yes. For all the predictions that follow, you can stick to the headlines of the blog, where it directly says note number 3, number 4, number 5 and number 6. From September the 16th, 2013 on, things continued undisturbed. The blog at allmystery.de was no longer affected from the outside.
That must have irritated the readers, i.e. the book recipients of your blog, a little at that time. These predictions,
possibly 17 months after the novel was sent to the book recipients, in September 2013, i.e. after the blog had been deleted at weltvrschwarung.de. They were sent another letter in which the two predictions that had already been made within the novel and the deletion or relocation of the blog were again pointed out.
So it had to be pointed out again what had happened to the blog and the information it contained?
Yes. Nevertheless, the dissolution of the blog was and is not really a problem, because it doesn't prevent the predictions from being present in the novel anyway. After all, the references described in the blog only serve to verify between the predictions encoded in the novel and the events that actually happened historically. The prediction clues can be reposted everywhere, because they only deal with events that are historically recorded anyway. The real weakness is only the threat of the novel's dissolution, which is one of the reasons why there are book recipients who have received the novel as witnesses. To be on the safe side, the novel was of course also deposited in the 2 German national libraries in the summer of 2012, so it is there physically and digitally. But you never know what can happen to a book when it has to be removed.
Yes, I see. So that's all you need to know?
No, unfortunately something else has happened to the download links of the downloadable novel in the last months. I almost forgot to say that. Well, there has been a change for the download links of the novel, which you can either click under the window of the YouTube video The Apocalypse of God, a Revelation, or under this video. The first link is still okay. It provides direct access to download the novel from a public server of imaginetz.de, where anyone can access it and even save smaller files. This download still works perfectly, and the download link also shows the upload date and number of downloads, all kept very simple and traceable. If you prefer to use the second link to download the book or even check it, you will unfortunately have some difficulties. This is because the link below the video window used to lead to the download page lesen.to, where you could download books for free via linked downloads. But this page was shut down in spring 2018. Due to the deactivation of the page, the download link has not been lost, but you have to click on it directly, as it is now below the video window of this interview. This is the change. Then you can use your browser to go to the share hoster share-online.biz, from where you can download the novel file. There on the page you will also find the upload date of the book file, which once again confirms to the viewer the authenticity of the process I reported. Unfortunately, there is still a very annoying problem to mention, which has arisen in the last months with this second download link. If you want to download the book file directly from the server of the Share Online site using the second link, the antivirus program Antivir will tell you that a malicious program has been found on the Share Online site if you have installed this software on your computer. But this is not correct. This is an anti-captcha program with which Share Online wants to ensure that a human and not a robot program has called up the page and wants to download a file automatically. Otherwise, Share Online would be overrun with automatic robot download programs. However, the programmers of the antivirus software have set up their program in such a way that every time a download is called up at Share Online, this message is issued by Antivir, so that anxious people, who usually do not even look to see what was reported, quickly close the page again and never go back to it. This is to prevent people from illegally downloading films and music, which is usually stored on Share Online. But what is actually reported as malware by Antivir is an anti-captcha identification program from Share Online, which wants an authentication that the caller of the website is not an automatic robot program. This is also known from emails, where you have to write down a jumble of letters at the end or click into an open circle to show that no robot program is accessing the website automatically.
That is certainly a problem for some people. And they remain suspicious. Is there anything they can do? Is there an alternative?
If you want to download the file of the book with the second link, because you want to check or compare it, but you are rather afraid or suspicious of viruses or malware or the like, I advise you to look at the file in an internet cafe and download it there. Very anxious people can do the same with the first link. Those who downloaded the file from the second link should not forget to unpack the file with a password. There is no other way to do it. The password is lesen.to. The website, where the file was listed before. Afterwards you can burn the PDF file on a CD in an internet cafe, and that's it. I recommend a CD, because with a USB stick you can also drag malware from an internet cafe computer onto the stick.
Well, you can actually still get all that done. If I interpret this correctly, it seems that the second link is primarily about confirming the upload date. Okay, are there any other things to look out for in the book and the blog?
Well, of course it's best to start reading the blog from the beginning, i.e. the oldest entry first, and not the most recent one. To understand the entries better, you might want to print out the blog in full, so that you don't get confused. It is also essential for the viewer of this interview to know that the remaining posts are /were explanations for the recipients of the novel by which they were guided. Therefore, the blog for viewers of this interview may often be a little irritating or a little incomprehensible.
So printing it out would be quite helpful for interested viewers, yes. Okay. But now I just thought of something completely different. What do you think about Trump? What role does he play?
Well, I am not allowed to say anything special about that. If he plays a role, then you will find something clear in the novel, based on the incidental events and depictions.
So, you find something in the novel about Trump? Yes or no?
Yes, something clear, if you open your eyes. Not very difficult to discover.
You said that it was important to link and share this interview?
Oh yes, right. It will be very important to distribute this and the next interviews widely. So please share, link and subscribe. It will also be very important to re-upload the interviews on your own video channel or to place them on other video portals, as well as to document and debate the interviews, the novel and the blog. I can only emphasize this. I would therefore like to ask everyone to spread these interviews and information further, no matter in what sense they intend to do so. Translations into other languages are allowed. Transcriptions of these interviews can be found under this video as a download, so the translation or even the reading and retrieval of certain contents of the interviews is no longer so laborious. Do not wait too long, but take heart and document and debate. As I said before, everyone will play a role if they get involved and understand it that way. Such a person goes into a reciprocal effect. Just observe the events and reactions in the world that follow. Even if we cannot stop the process completely, we can stop and dissolve much unnecessary suffering among people.
But then false information could be spread. Even you, who appear here without any clear external identification, could be imitated, exchanged, or manipulated with your videos. If your interviews were taken from the internet and fakes of them re-uploaded, or if your interviews are completely deleted from the net or a new interview is recorded in your name.
Yes, that's true. But we put signs and symbols in all our interview videos that confirm the authenticity and uniqueness of the interviews. So, if fake videos would appear, they would be revealed automatically by a key and by third parties. We have worked out a special system to create a key that appears several times in the video, using my gestures and symbolism to verify this video as the first basic video and clearly identify all its successors. But more will not be said about it. The decoding of a code is used when forgeries or manipulations occur. Similar to a blockchain. Additionally, the interviews are uploaded to independent video portals, DTube, BitChute, etc. to protect the interviews from censorship by YouTube. A guarantee for the constant accessibility of the interviews, as it actually worked very well with YouTube, is not given with these independent video portals. However, because they function decently and the interviews are less to more clickable and viewable depending on the number of users who are watching the interviews at the moment. Depending on how many in the network are currently watching the video or have it passively on their hard drive. This is why it is so important that viewers constantly re-upload these interviews on YouTube, document them, debate them, or even translate them to ensure their continued existence.
Okay. Good. Now something else again. When will the chaos begin? How can we recognize it?
Actually, everyone will be able to see that. For many people, it will then be important that they can remember the covert methods and procedures of the nobility and the club that influence us, the methods described in this and the next interview, as well as to think of the upcoming reactions of the AI and their demons rampaging around on Earth. To remember what this will look like. To remember how people can prepare for it and how to successfully tackle these entities.
That was all very detailed. I think we got a good insight into the reasons and goals for manipulating our planet and our species. And with that, we have now come to the end of our interview. Would you like to conclude by telling the viewers what they can do during this difficult time ahead? What would be the best thing to do? How to behave and prepare yourself personally, mentally, and physically?
Form collectives, talk to friends, acquaintances, and people with whom you can plan something like this, who are reliable and to whom you can stick to. Arrange something with them on a serious level. Find out how you can survive in an emergency, in a variety of disasters. Think about safe shelter, durable, high-energy food supplies, and how to prepare them. Especially about water sources in your area, it's best to compile a list of such water sources and print it out. Or ensure reliable water purification. Think about electricity, petrol, diesel, heat, and communication. Also think about the protection of your home, self-defense methods, and sufficient shielding of your body in the event of a civilizing incident. Don't forget to store medical or hygienic articles, as well as clothing, trekking equipment, and barter goods. During disaster scenarios, you should not react hastily. Do not flee headlong in your car to somewhere. This is dangerous. More dangerous than staying at home. Do not allow yourself to be talked into doing strange things by the state. Therefore, organize yourself as well as possible. Do not be dependent on the state. Do not let anything attach to your body. Always doubt what will be served up in the coming disasters or what will happen suddenly. This is very important. Be suspicious of the authorities. If there is an invasion, hold back in your enthusiasm for extraterrestrial entities. Do not welcome aliens. Always doubt official reports when dealing with aliens. Do not allow any religious savior to be presented to you, or a great new leader. Always be suspicious. Recognize yourself, who you are and what you can do. Practice putting yourself in superposition. Recognize who this AI is, who is now fighting for survival on our planet. If you work in large or secret computer companies, look for the secret high-performance computers from which the AI is generated. And everyone should pay attention to the companies within which the AI can be anchored. Watch out for Huawei, for Yahoo, Verizon, and some dangerous other companies on Earth. Watch them and prevent their rise. Stand together as humanity. If it has to, then fight each other. But stand united in the decisive moment. Never put up with the reduction of your species. Prevent your decimation. The important thing in all this is not to forget that there is something you can do during the apocalypse, namely to refuse service as a normal employee. Simply not to participate anymore. Many will perhaps say that they cannot and must not, because they think they cannot leave the world alone in this situation without their helping hand, especially as soldiers, security guards, policemen. Remember, you will not be able to save the world in this situation anyway. You will be able to make a difference much more if you just start to say no. Journalists, scientists, bankers, politicians, teachers, corporate, elite and Secret Service employees can and should also come out and tell. As long as it still works on its own. And don't be afraid, there will be many who will say no with you or come out with facts about the controlled system. So many that you can be proud of having decided of your own accord and conscience not to participate anymore. There will be amnesty. But for those who continue to participate, their weeping and public confession will not help in the end. They will then be presented by the true rulers of the world to the people in public as the guilty. They are indeed guilty, but these perpetrators themselves are only seduced victims for a perfidious staging.
Yes, then I thank you for your visit and I hope that we have helped some viewers a little by doing so. The links to the book and the blog can be found in the description of the video The Apocalypse of God, a Revelation on YouTube mentioned by Mr. Laurent, or directly in the description below this video window. Thank you, Mr. Laurent, and I hope that our liberation on Earth will proceed as you announce. Mr. Laurent and I will then meet in a fortnight time for a second interview, where Mr. Laurent, as he said, will then take the viewer deeper down the rabbit hole. Goodbye, dear viewers. Thank you for watching and see you next interview.